America's Earth 2 president getting a big dose of Earth 1 reality. This afternoon, Donald Trump's delusions about Canada becoming a 51st state were met with a hard no from Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney inside the Oval Office. Carney, of course, just won an election last week, riding a wave of anti-Trump sentiment. Take a listen.
If I may, as you know from real estate, there are some places that are never for sale.
That's true.
We're sitting in one right now, Buckingham Palace that you visited as well.
That's true.
Having met with the owners of Canada over the course of the campaign last several months, it's not for sale, won't be for sale ever. But the opportunity is in the partnership. And
it won't be for sale ever. An unequivocal no, delivered right to the face of the one making the threat over and over again. To that, Donald Trump said, never say never. Trump also claimed that the lack of any trade deals, including, importantly, with China, is a good thing, that we all have it wrong, that we in the United States, we do not need trade.
By not trading, we're losing nothing. So we're saving $1 trillion. We also have a situation, because everyone says, when are you going to sign deals? We don't have to sign deals. We could sign 25 deals right now, Howard, if we wanted. We don't have to sign deals. They have to sign deals with us. They want a piece of our market. We don't want a piece of their market. We don't care about their market. They want a piece of our market.
It's not at all how it works. It turns out the idea that we do not need things from other places, that we do not trade with other markets, and that the world won't go on without us is, tragically for us, another one of Donald Trump's delusions. Trump's man-made economic catastrophe, his self-started trade war, has led other countries to just turn away from us. CNBC is reporting this, quote, what began as a rapid drop in U.S. imports as shippers cut orders from manufacturing partners around the world has now extended into a nationwide export slump, with the U.S. agricultural sector and top farm products, including soybeans, corn, and beef, taking the hardest hit. The latest trade data shows that a slide in U.S. exports to the world, and China in particular, that began in January now extends to most U.S. ports. The new data also showed that for now, Trump's tariffs were resulting in higher trade deficits, which is precisely the opposite of what, even in his own world, Donald Trump said he was going to accomplish on Liberation Day. New York Times adding this, quote, the surge in imports was almost entirely due to the ingredients that pharmaceutical companies need to manufacture drugs, which Trump has been threatening to tariff. One analyst tells the New York Times, quote, there was far less of everything else, like toys, furniture, appliances, kitchenware, apparel, etc., imported in March than suspected, meaning there was no surge in inventories of finished consumer goods. What it means for us, for Americans here, according to the New York Times, is this, quote, store shelves will empty out sooner rather than later, end quote. Donald Trump's delusions about trade and the economy meeting the harsh truth of reality is where we start today with some of our favorite reporters and friends. David Gura is back. He's an anchor and correspondent for Bloomberg News. Also joining us, staff writer for The Atlantic, co-author of the New York Times best-selling book, Abundance, Derek Thompson, is back. And with me at the table, New York Times investigative reporter Suzanne Craig. Sue was born and raised in the great city of Calgary, Canada. Sue, I have to start with you. I am sorry that this is what Canada saw from America's president today. How did it go over?
I think when I think about Mark Carney, I think he achieved a lot today. Some of it was done simply in body language, however subtle. He raised his eye at the right moment, but not too high. And I just wish there was thought bubbles. But I think for Mark Carney, what he achieved is very clearly stating that Canada is not for sale. And he got it in, I think, very graciously but firmly. And that's what Canadians wanted to hear. So I thought it was effective from his point of view. I saw the news alerts that went out from several papers afterwards, and that was the news alert.
It's just amazing that at 4:04 p.m. today, like the most newsworthy thing that a world leader said to an American president is, quote, Canada is not for sale.
I know. It's really stunning when you think about just that we're even having this discussion. And, the discussions that have gone on between, I think back to some things that Donald Trump told former Prime Minister Trudeau about how the treaty that demarcates the Canadian border is up for grabs, that the treaties on the Great Lakes that govern the Great Lakes are up for grabs now, and all the things that they've gone into. He's not even just saying, that Canada is, he's trying to buy Canada. He's looked at these treaties. His people have looked at these treaties. It's no accident. And the stakes are really high for Mark Carney. He's not only got to navigate that, he's got to sort out these tariffs in a way that doesn't crush Canada. I mean, Donald Trump has said that he wants to bring Canada to its knees through economics.
David Gura, that felt like one spinning plate of breaking news. The other felt like the big reveal there was Donald Trump reframing, at least for the purposes of his fans and supporters and for the world to see, that there are no deals coming. I mean, we don't need any deals, he kept saying. Was that news to people who had diligently written in their notebooks? Tons of people are calling the White House. We have lots of deals coming.
I don't think that it was news per se, but it is, as you're pointing out, an evolution in rhetoric from this president over the last few weeks. And it was at the beginning of this pause that we heard Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, talk about 90 deals in 90 days, a kind of absurdly ambitious agenda for this administration to negotiate and ink that many deals in that time frame. But there is this increasing disconnect between what we're hearing from the president and from his economic advisors. Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, was on Capitol Hill today, and he said there were 17 countries who are near a point where they could sign a deal with the U.S. We heard 25 countries are waiting for the U.S., waiting for the White House to decide that the White House is ready to sign a deal with them. So there's just a fuzziness surrounding all of it, and I think that kind of extends to the conversation that took place in the Oval Office before that meeting today. There was a very shrewd question from a reporter. Is there anything that Mark Carney, the Prime Minister, could say that would cause you to remove tariffs that you've put in place on Canada? And President Trump was unequivocal, no. So it was a fascinating moment, as Suzanne pointed out. I mean, I agree that the thought bubbles would have been incredibly useful, but we saw a prime minister who has no political experience, really. Yes, he navigated this campaign, and after a long career as a technocrat, obviously won this very important federal election, figuring out all the right notes to hit during the course of that conversation. So nodding to the fact that he cares about fentanyl and border security, all things that we know that President Trump really cares about. But when it comes down to sort of the expectations of what could come out of this meeting, it was really just this kind of performative aspect of friendship, two leaders getting together that went, I think, a lot better than a lot of people would have expected going into this. And that started with kind of a wave and a handshake and a raised fist going into the White House when Mark Carney arrived. But in terms of any kind of tangible steps forward here when it comes to trade, nothing really. I guess that was the expectation. Obviously, there wouldn't be any kind of deal inked over the course of this meeting. But I think to your broader point, Nicole, we're not any more advanced in kind of the granular trade negotiation than we were before it took place.
And I know David Gura uses the word friendship loosely, because if I had any friends that put out social media posts like that about me before I came over for tea, they would not be my friends at all. Derek, let me ask you to sort of pull out a little bit for us. America just elected a felon for the first time in our history because eggs were too expensive and other stuff. And now that person who ran for office, the highest office in our country's politics, isn't just saying that things are going to be more expensive. He's saying you don't need those things. You don't need 34 of one thing. You only need 2. That thing is a doll. What most people spend, a doll is a sort of an annual purchase, a present, a gift for a young child on Earth 1, where he obviously doesn't live. But a whole bunch of other things are going to be out of reach or a lot more expensive. And either there aren't people around Donald Trump who have told him that, or he doesn't care. But either way is the slow-moving political asteroid that's about to hit the entire Republican Party.
I have to go back to something that Trump said in the clip that you used at the top of the show. He said, by not trading, we're not losing anything. And that statement is absolutely 100% correct, except for the fact that U.S.'s total exports in 2024 totaled $2 trillion. So other than $2 trillion of exports and $3 trillion of imports, we're not losing anything with trading. That's $5 trillion worth of economic activity that is imploded if America suddenly stops trading. And when you dig into it, who's really going to be hurt? Here's a terrible irony. You've got all this talk, especially coming from people who are MAGA and say that they're for the working class. They're for people who work in industry, people who are farmers. Guess what we import the most of to China? It's billions and billions of dollars of soybeans. And as you indicated right now, soybean farmers essentially cannot sell their stuff to China. And as a result, the port of Portland, Oregon, has found that the number of exports that are moving through it declined by 50% year over year just last month. We are imploding tens, if not hundreds of billions of dollars of activity. And for what? For what? There was no crisis of soybeans. There was no crisis in American industry. We're doing all of this because Donald Trump fundamentally does not understand that trade is a positive sum interaction. Trade helps people. If someone in China wants a soybean, someone in France wants a soybean, and some farmer in the middle of America wants to sell them a soybean, both groups work out with the exchange. Someone overseas gets the soybean they want. A farmer in America gets the dollar that they need. When you shut down international trade, you take a positive sum interaction and you implode it. So this idea that Donald Trump said, and it is verbatim, I wrote it down as I heard it, by not trading, we're not losing anything. This is not a small error. This is a $5 trillion miscalculation, and there is a 0% chance that Americans don't feel it in the next few months.